excited about our next speaker. He's coming from the Pacific time zone. He woke up early this morning here in the United States to be here with us, and it's a great gift for all of us to have a digital transformation executive and leader with tremendous experience with us. And I'm talking about Javier Silva. Javier is a digital transformation executive with 25 years of project management experience implementing solutions for IT, manufacturing, and supply chain for companies like Sony, where I was a leader for global excellence innovation at Sony in the beginning of my career, Cardinal Health, Becton Dickinson, and currently as the digital transformation leader for the supply chain team at Outset Medical. So here he is, a great cross-industry leader of excellence, innovation, and transformation, exactly the inspiration and knowledge that we so much strive for. Javier, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your wisdom and expertise with our global audience.
Thank you for having me. So today we are going to talk a little bit about a practical guide to digital transformation. As you know, digital transformation is one of those terms that right now is very, very in vogue. And there is a lot of energy behind digital transformation and digital technology and digital everything. So what we are going to try to do today is to talk to you about the practical way to go about it. So one of the things, sorry, I stopped my camera. So one of the things that we wanted to do is to make sure that you leave this talk with practical steps that will allow your supply chain to gain that competitive edge that can transform your business. And one of the important things that we have to say about digital transformation is that it's not only nice to have, but today it's a must-have. And today we'll be talking about how to move forward with a new or existing digital transformation process. One of the things that you have to review when talking about digital transformation, different people have different concepts. And today we will discuss what is a digital transformation. We will be talking about how to evaluate the maturity level of your organization, the goals and challenges that you are facing when leading a digital transformation process, and what is the road to digital transformation look like. We will be presenting some very, very interesting study cases about how the practical digital transformation hits the road. And finally, we'll leave you with some tips on where to start in your journey to digital transformation. At the end of the session, you will have the chance to ask any question that you like. And for that, there is a Q&A interface. One of the first things that we have to do when we're talking about digital transformation is to make sure that we have the same definition. And my basic definition for DT is the incorporation of digital technology into all areas of the business, changing how the business operates and how the business delivers value to customers. One of the important things that you are going to see when you are talking about digital transformation is that even if your process is completely unique to your industry, the DT or digital transformation journey is going to go and impact different areas of your organization, and you are going to be able to leverage different technologies that have been used before by other companies, even if it's not exactly the same way. So when we talk about digital transformation, we are talking about digital technology and integrating it into our day-to-day operation. In order to get to digital transformation, we have to go through the three basic layers or three basic parts of the digital transformation. And in order to get there, the first step is digitization. The digitization is the basic process by which we convert analog or physical information into a digital format. And this takes many shapes. It can be as simple as you having the ability to see all of your invoices in a PDF form, or your purchase orders, or your bill of lading. Once you have all that information digitized, the digitization process is complete. And then you are going to go to be able to go into the digitalization part of your digital transformation experience. When you are talking about digitalization, you are going to be talking about the actual use of digital technologies and processes to manage the information that was digitized in the step before. That means that instead of capturing or printing out the information from your ERP for every single bill of lading on a digital format, now you are going to have the system do it for you. It changes the way that you interact and receive your customer orders, but basically digitalization is the automation of a standard process. Once you have these two key components in establishing your company or in your process, you are going to be able then to talk about digital transformation. Digital transformation in this context is going to be the result of these previous efforts that we've done, these previous steps, and is going to change the operating model of your business, how you move from your current day-to-day operation to a digital environment where you apply digital tools and more intelligence, and in order to reduce and eliminate repetitive tasks. And also it allows you to improve the way that you do business by focusing very clearly in the areas of your organization that need improvement, that will allow you in turn to make sure that you have a more efficient organization, because every single process is going to be optimized via the use of digital transformation. One of the key things that you are going to see in your digital transformation journey is the maturity level. When we talk about the maturity level, is how much of my processes have been improved by the digital transformation journey, how much of those processes are being turned into a digital advantage. And when we get to the digitally competitive part of the maturity level, we are going to be talking about a process, an organization, a department that really is engaged with digital transformation, and that is taking advantage of these tools in order to perform feats that otherwise would be very difficult to execute, either with the current resource level of the company or with the amount of capabilities that we have in hand right now. When we start, we are going to be talking about a digitally active company. It's going to take advantage of transactional, digital, or e-commerce solutions to increase revenue. So this is where we start our journey, and this is where we start to see processes and changes in the organization that will allow us to start improving the way that we do business by moving repetitive transactions into the digital environment, by moving basic interactions into the digital realm. And this is what has been going on for several years. When many companies started the ERP journey, they implemented those big systems, and they started to transform the way that they did business. So what we are going to be seeing right now is that digitally active companies are dipping their toes into the cloud and starting to see these solutions, starting to see the results of these processes being transformed digitally. digitally engaged organization use more advanced analytics and process automation. And what this means is that when you move from your previous stage to digitally engagement, what you are going to see is that processes and activities that you now perform in the digital realm are going to be benefiting from the use of all that information that you're putting out there in the cloud. And that is what advanced analytics and process automation come into place, where you go from a transactional model of operating into a more analytic mode. Whereas you were receiving the information and processing orders before, now with all that information at your disposal, you are going to be capable of doing a more advanced analysis of that information, and that in turn is going to drive the benefits to your business. One of the key advantages and one of the key points that you are going to see is as you advance within the digital journey, the level and quality of the people that are going to be released from repetitive tasks increases. So when we first start, we are digitally active. Probably we are going to be releasing the work of our data entry clerks. When we become digitally engaged, we have higher level people that are getting released, so our planners spend less time going through our set of data in order to provide us with an idea of where the business is going to be. And finally, we get to the digitally competitive stage of the equation. At this stage, companies push the envelope on how digital processes are used to drive revenue, forecast future needs, and respond to gaps. And what this talks about is basically the transformation of the business intelligence side of the equation into a standardized process that leverages all of those tools in order to drive improvement. To be clear and specific, we can be talking about decision making using big data. We can be talking about artificial intelligence, and we can be talking about all of those activities that drive a company to be digitally competitive. One of the one of the main drivers that the industry has seen in recent years is the Amazon operating model, where every single step of the interaction between the customer and the company is tracked and managed, and drives in turn process improvements into the rest of the organization. We can use artificial intelligence and a number of tools in the digital realm to compete with companies that are either much bigger or faster than ours or have more resources, because we are going to have the information necessary in order to allocate or the resources that our company has into those areas which are of special need. The next two people that you see on your screen are people who are kind of driving the thoughts and some of the ideas that drive the implementation of digital transformation into the supply chain environment. And one of the things that I have to bring to the front is that digital transformation is not a technology process, it's a people process, and people have to be involved in every step of the way. And if the digital transformation doesn't the digital transformation program doesn't take into account every single level of the organization, then it's going to be more difficult to implement those solutions. In the current day and age, we can say that things like COVID forced us to do a lot of digital transformation that we didn't expect that we needed to do, because we were forced to do it, and it tested many things that we had thought about but not tried. One good example of that is the remote working paradigm that we were talking about for many years before, and we were doing experiments, and we were sending specific people or dealing with contractors and programmers, and all of a sudden we had to send everybody home and then scale from one day to the next every single technology that allowed that to happen. That in turn drive the knowledge that some of our supply chains were tied together with pins to the wall, so that processes were not well understood and were very difficult to maintain using remote work, but we did it anyway, and that is one of the things that drives digital transformation in the current day and age, and this according to Mark Anderson. Sandy from the MIT, Sandy Pentland for the MIT Media Lab said something very interesting. So automated system in supply chain break down when faced with rapid shifts in demand and supply. And the last 2 years have been nothing but rapid changes in supply and demand all across the supply chain, from the sources of our material to the transportation networks that have been challenged very strongly, to the actual demand from our customers, because you've seen more and more that our customers are demanding and requiring more products faster, or in different locations and with different levels of service than ever before. And trying to cope with all of those changes in the supply chain with people, it means that you are going to need to have an army. And the digital transformation set of tools is going to allow you to manage higher levels of requirements, of challenges that your organization have never had to face before, with the same or slightly much less resources than will be needed to perform those activities manually otherwise. And that's what we are talking about. At the beginning, I'm going to tell you a little story about my previous company. And we were at the beginning of the COVID crisis. We had a new CEO, and we have one of the leading products in the market for ventilator equipment. And we received an order for 22,000 ventilators from the US government. Plus, we received thousands of orders across the globe for this equipment. And to give you an idea of the radical shift in demand, we needed to go from making 50 to 100 per year to making 22,000 in less than 6 months. So that was a very, very strong challenge. And we needed to stand up a manufacturing operation in 90 days to increase ventilator production 10 times. Our previous operation was almost a workshop environment where we did 10 or 20 per day, and then those were processed manually and tested at a very leisure pace. So we weren't set up for mass production because, as you know, medical devices by their very nature, every single test in the manufacturing process has to be correct in order to be able to leverage or to keep the patient safe. In order to be able to do that, we had to move all of the operation for manufacturing of these devices into a new location. We had to go halfway across the country from California to Kansas and set up a 700,000 square feet location where we set up these operations. So we had to do a digital transformation of the environment and virtualize the operation because it had two different legacy systems that were very, very difficult to update. So there was no way that in 90 days we were going to perform changing the ERP solution that we were using. So the decision was made to take everything and create a digital twin. And in order to manage all of these changes required in order to migrate the operation to their new location, we set up 7 independent but coordinated work streams. And what that allowed us to do was to work on different parts of the process, making sure that everybody was talking to each other, but giving each team the focus needed in order to deliver their own solution. As part of the IT team, we did a lot of the digital transformation in a very quick, in a very rapid amount of time, because we didn't have the time to develop new, more efficient solutions. We didn't have the chance to improve every single process in order to make it scalable. So we moved by prioritizing, standardizing, and being very, very practical about what we needed to do. The first thing that we decided, and management viewed the need to do that, is that we couldn't be managing 2 separate operations for the same product. So we moved everything from California to the new facility. But instead of having 2 manufacturing lines, we went from 2 to 20. So the team that had to set up all of those manufacturing lines, the team that had to make sure that we had all of the test equipment and all of the programming in there, set up the facility, get the people trained, get the people certified. All of those 7 different streams were working on different aspects on it. The digital transformation team was working on very specific problems in order to transform not only the manufacturing operation, but also the supply chain operation from one location to the other. And I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of the challenges that we faced. One of the main challenges, as I mentioned, is that we were working with 2 separate legacy ERPs. We had no time in order to develop a new solution or to implement a new system, because those 2 old ERPs were tied very, very closely together with the test equipment on the production floor. And since we are talking about medical device manufacturing, all of those tests were critical in order to deliver the material to the market. So we did a complete lift and shift of the existing operation. That means that we moved everything from in-premise to the cloud immediately. We had to work very strongly with AWS in order to be able to replicate some of the equipment that we had, because the virtual environment had to include very, very old pieces of software that were never designed to work in the cloud. So that was one interesting challenge. The other thing is that we created a digital twin of the live system. So basically, we had the production system running, and on top of that, we had a digital twin that replicated all of the information on the production environment. But what that allowed us to do was to run production on the production environment, and anything and everything that was not strictly mission critical for getting product out of the line was run out of the digital twin. That means that we had to keep the database in sync, but queries, reporting, label printing, everything that didn't necessarily have to hit the production environment never got there. It went straight to the digital twin. That, of course, involved creating a high availability and low latency twin, because some of those test equipments were very sensitive to any delay in communication with the production environment and with the digital twins. So we had a team of engineers going through every single piece of software in order to find the calls to the production database, and they were making sure that we were not going to have equipment failures or timeouts because of any defect on the code or any call to a system that was now in a different location. So that was a very intensive process, but at the end of the day, we were able to change the ERP from 100 to 1,000 per week without the need to move away from our existing production environment, which would have not been possible on the time allotted to us. Some of the processes that we were working required us to use a different tool set. When we were talking about work order creation, about label printing, the way that these modules work in the old ERP were not very efficient, because a person needed to be in front of the screen, entering information at every step of the label creation process, at every step of the work order creation process, which limited our ability to automate that. So we went with two major vendors on the robotic process automation markets, Microsoft and UiPath, and they allowed us to perform a lot of these activities automatically, so that we didn't have to have an army of people entering information into the system. Working with those old systems was very challenging for these tools, but we managed to make it work, setting up a number of virtual workstations that were continuously working on creating those work orders and making sure that those labels got printed in order for us to support our tenfold increase in volume. That was my baptism by fire, and that's the way I learned RPA the hard way. And finally, how to manage work streams in 5 locations and 2 continents. We had people working in California, we had people working in Chicago, we had people working in Europe, in different parts of these 7 different work streams. And the way that we were able to do that was via digital workflow platform. All of the information was organized and made available in SharePoint, so that if you were working with any kind of version of the system, you are going to always be working with the latest version, because everything was on a centralized location, and we try to avoid having people keep information individually. For mass consumption, we adopted a workflow platform called Monday.com. And the reason that we use that is because it allowed us to communicate very quickly and effectively with the rest of the organization and with every member of our teams in order to deliver that information. And finally, we also went through Jira, because that is the preferred tool for our development team, and that allowed us in turn to be very efficient in delivering digital information to our teams. So how do you start in your path to digital transformation? Maybe you're not going to be setting up a new manufacturing facility in 90 days, but the lessons that we learned in that process, and the lessons that we brought to the table, and allow us to make sure that digital transformation is not just a very interesting thing to say, but it's also a practical solution to day-to-day processes. So if you look at what we did, we broke down our current process. We look for compatibility, what was available that we could do digitally, what we needed to do. And probably there are going to be some areas in your current operation where you look at probably my biggest impact will be in operations, but they are going to be a little bit more reluctant. The planning team is going to support more this operation. So you are going to be sometimes considering which time is more susceptible to accepting change in their day-to-day business. So if you try to change your shipping operation, you're talking about probably hundreds of thousands of transactions per week. But if you change your S&OP process, it's a much bigger impact in the organization, but the number of people that perform that activity is lower, and probably they can support your digital journey better. The second thing that you have to do is to think end-to-end. So you are not going to be looking at individual process. You're not going to say, we are going to automate our purchasing process. You are going to be looking at your whole supply chain, and you are going to start to have that picture where you say, if I want to transform this and I want to move forward the organization, what do I need to do in order to benefit my organization as a whole? So I'm going to share with you what we did in our current organization, and we broke down our internal supply chain, and probably you have more or less components to your own internal supply chain. And but the idea is that you are going to be able to take a look at this and then apply the analysis that we did. So we went from planning to sourcing to manufacturing and delivery of our material and an internal supply chain. And you are not going to see a lot of the manufacturing solutions because there is a complete team dedicated to manufacturing digital transformation in our organization, but we are talking today about what the supply chain can do. So you see that we broke down every individual component, and we say for the demand plan and for the supply inventory, I think that we should be looking at an integrated business planning tool. The functionalities that we are looking for is to be able to break the demand by region, to be able to break down the forecast, do a scenario analysis and forecasting, because those are the things that provide value to the organization. So when we get asked the question, what is going to happen if we change the market, or if we change according to the demand in the market this way, those are the things that takes us the more time. So this is where the big impact of this tool is going to be, that we in turn will allow us to have better service level with lower finished good inventory and avoid having the army of people that I talked to you about before in order to perform these operations. When we are talking about sourcing, there are solutions like the procurement control tower that is going to take all of the information from your systems, send it to your vendors, and then get all of these responses. All of those activities that get performed by the buyers can be, their work can be enhanced because they are not going to be doing the repetitive task of confirming every single order. So the function of the buyer instead becomes exception management, and they have the ability to have all of the information that they need in order to concentrate on delivering a critical benefit to the organization, like a favorable PPV. When we talk about the placing and management of these POs, we implement the supply chain control tower, we have the supplier portal, and we are going to be able to lower or raw material inventory levels, just because we are going to be super efficient about where do we get the material now. That in turn also is benefited from implementing a new digital tool, which is the supply chain risk management tool. In the last 2 years, the number of things that impact our supply chain has increased exponentially, and having a tool that allows us to identify those risks is going to be critical in order to help us to deliver um, information to our planning team, to our purchasing team, about where we see the next storm coming that is going to impact our supply chain. Finally, the delivery part of the equation. How do you manage your transportation? How do you manage your communication with your DCs and freight partners? There are solutions that are going to be in there. And when you look at this, and finally, the service, in our case, we have a very important service equipment component, and that in turn is going to drive your planning environment. At the end of the day, what I want you to take from this picture is not that how the individual components, technologies, or tools are going to benefit your operation, but the idea that you break down your operation, you start looking for tools to improve your operation, and then you decide where do you want or what benefits are more critical for your particular case, for your operation, and bring those tools to bear, and make sure that when you are looking at the whole supply chain in your organization, each of these individual terms either has the capacity to talk to each other and or the capacity to share information. So everything starts with people. As you can see here, you are going to do your operation analysis, then you're going to lay the foundation because you understand your value proposition, and you are going to see that the three things that I have on the right are people, brand, and metrics. Basically, people are going to be at the beginning of every single digital journey that you are going to want to take, because at the end you are going to transform the business, which is a collection of people that are trying to do the right thing, that are trying to deliver value to their customers and to the organization. So you move from your day-to-day activities to that driven decision making that is going to provide with the greatest value to the organization. Finally, in order for your digital transformation journey to take off, you will create and facilitate a digital culture. People are aware of these technologies. You talk to them early, you talk to them often, and you talk to them continuously about what the digital transformation process is going. You will allow the use of modern solutions. That means that you will be focused more on how to improve your processes with new tools rather than trying to rework your old systems in order to work in the new environment. You push the transformation of the core business, making sure that the process that makes your company different from any other company out there is working properly, and you allocate resources and independence to the digital transformation process, because many times these processes are going to depend a lot on the people that you assign, and you have to give them the liberty to experiment and fail. And that's what I had for to share with you today. Thank you very much. Now we will talk about some questions.
Thank you very much, Javier. Great presentation, great insights, as you mentioned, on the practical guide to digital transformation. So I'm going to ask you that you please stop showing your presentation screen, and I'll bring my camera back on with you. Perfect. And for those of you who submitted questions, we're reviewing all of them, either whether you submitted here or through LinkedIn. and we are gonna relay as many as possible to Javier. We have about 5 minutes here, so we'll be efficient in doing that. Talking about efficiency, Javier, the previous speakers talked about supply chain planning and talk about the shift that has happened from just in time to what they call just in case, which means that with the pandemic, there has been a shift from supply chain efficiency, trying to get, faster, cheaper, better, applying lean processes and systems to your supply chain. And I think that sometimes that's a mischaracterization of how lean actually is applied, but let's go with that. We went from being efficient to realize that we have to be more effective, that we may actually need a greater level of risk management in our supply chains. And I'm curious about your perspective, especially in the medical industry now, where how do you balance that efficiency versus effectiveness in your supply chain, and specifically the risk management component, that you can have very efficient supply chains that could be disrupted. Curious about redundancy, risk management, and if digital plays any role in that.
Yep, in the modern, as you saw during my breakdown of our internal supply chain, one of the key components of our digital strategy is supply chain risk management. The number of things that can go wrong in a modern supply chain has increased exponentially, and the ability of us as people to keep up to date with that is not increasing in the same way. So having a tool that will go scoring go looking for all of the pieces of information available on the internet, and then bringing that information, putting it all together and filtering what you need to make proper decision is one of the critical steps in order to have a healthier supply chain. Because probably there's a big typhoon coming in, but if none of your vendors is affected, you don't need to worry about that. But there is a small breakdown in operations and a shipping dock in a certain part of China, where you have 20 or 30 different vendors that are shipping material to you. That is going to have a much bigger impact, and not everybody is going to be able to keep track of all those things by themselves. So having that in artificial intelligence looking for those pieces of information and bringing them to your table is critical for the health of your supply chain.
Very good, very good. You did talk very well about end-to-end planning for your supply chain, and even for your digital transformation effort, which is very important. Now, there are a number of comments and questions related to digital transformation itself. And one of the comments is that there is no digital transformation without a meaningful business transformation, and there is no business transformation without a meaningful cultural transformation. So in the world of digital, how is that affecting culture? And the question is, how do you set up your culture for success in a digital transformation?
In a digital transformation environment, one of the, as you mentioned, and that is a great point, people are critical in order to make this happen. And how do you bring people on board? You have to, if you are responsible or working on part of the digital transformation journey for your organization, your ability to communicate with the rest of the organization is going to be critical, because you are going to be talking about changes not only on operating procedures, but probably you're going to bring paradigm changes to the core of the organization. So if you are trying to implement this kind of system, having the ability to communicate through the rest of the organization, percolate those ideas, and start interacting with different parts of the organization, bringing to you those tools to allow them to do their jobs better, it's going to allow you to have a very better chance of success in your digital transformation journey. For example, one of the tools that I mentioned before, we use a workflow management tool in order to coordinate 7 different teams, but probably there are going to be some process in your purchasing team or your contract management operation that are going to benefit from those technologies. So if you communicate early and often and you start showing them some small pieces of technology that help them in their day-to-day business, your chances of success are going to increase that much.
Javier, our time is up, but thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise with our global audience today. What was a wonderful, insightful presentation, as you promised, on the practical guide to true digital transformation. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Javier Silva, digital transformation leader at Outset Medical, sharing his wisdom and expertise with all of us. So we are wrapping up this session now, and we will come back at the top of the hour with our final session of the day. So Javier, you may go ahead now and toggle your camera off. Thank you. So we'll be coming back at the top of the hour with a presentation on Unilever's international commerce. And specifically, we're going to learn how Unilever, on their automation journey, remove complexity to increase efficiency, productivity, and their control frameworks all at once through the use of supply chain planning and automation. So the session called Unilever International Delivers Customer Excellence in Cross-Border Commerce. We will start at the top of the hour. So you do not want to miss that. It's the last session for Supply Chain Planning Live today. So take a break now. I'll see you back at the top of the hour.